You know, in life, we expect our family to be our biggest supporters, but sometimes the deepest cuts come from those closest to home. My teacher daughter-in-law stole my grandson's moment at his science fair, and she thought she could erase my past to do it. So I unleashed a truth from 1969 that she never saw coming. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. I would be honored to have you join our family of storytellers. It amazes me how this community spans the globe. If you are comfortable, drop a comment with your town and the time on your clock. I love hearing from you all. That day started with so much sunshine and promise. My grandson Leo had been working for months on his science fair project. He was only 12 years old, but his mind, it was a beautiful thing. He built a detailed model of a lunar lander, complete with little engines that hissed with baking soda and vinegar. His eyes shone with that pure, untainted excitement that only a child who has discovered a passion can have. He told me, "Grandpa, I want to go to the moon one day." I smiled because I knew that feeling. The science fair was held in the school gym, all buzzing with parents and the smell of poster board and ambition. Leo stood by his project, so proud, and I stood beside him, my heart swelling. Then my daughter-in-law Sarah walked over. She is a science teacher at the middle school, and she always carries this air of authority, like she is the only one who knows anything about learning. She looked at Leo's lander and gave a tight little smile. She said, "It is very creative, Leo. But you know, real science is about more than just models. It is about rigorous methodology." Then she turned to me. "And Harry, while we appreciate your stories, maybe let the professionals handle the guidance from now on." The way she said it, in front of a small crowd of other parents, felt like a door slamming shut. Leo's face fell. The light in his eyes dimmed just a little. I felt a cold knot tighten in my chest. I did not say a word. I just placed a hand on Leo's shoulder, gave it a gentle squeeze, and I walked away. The hurt was a quiet, heavy thing. I went home that evening and sat in my old armchair. The silence in the house was deafening. I replayed the scene in my mind, the way Sarah had dismissed me, the way she had stolen Leo's thunder to make herself look like the only competent adult in the room. It was not just about me. It was about her belittling her own son's achievement, all to feed her own ego. That is when the hurt began to harden into something else. Resolve. I thought about what she said, about professionals, and I remembered a box I had not opened in decades. Up in the attic, under a layer of dust, was an old leather trunk. Inside, nestled between my Army discharge papers and photographs of my late wife, was a thick envelope. I pulled it out. It was my acceptance letter for a NASA internship from the summer of 1969, the summer of Apollo 11. I was chosen, one of a handful of students nationwide, to work on propulsion systems. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, but my father fell ill that spring, and I turned it down to stay home and help my family. I never regretted it. Family always comes first, but I never talked about it much either. It was just a part of my past I kept private. Holding that letter, feeling the crisp paper under my fingers, I knew what I had to do. This was not about boasting. This was about truth. My plan was simple and perfectly legal. The school science fair was just the local round. The winners would go to the regional competition in the city, and that event was judged by a panel that included retired engineers and a representative from the local aerospace museum. I made a phone call to an old friend, a man named Walter who I served with and who now sat on the museum board. I did not ask for any special favors. I just asked if he could ensure the judges were aware of the historical context of some projects, and I mentioned my own background, emailing him a scanned copy of my internship letter for credibility. I also knew that Sarah, in her ambition, had leveraged Leo's project in her tenure portfolio, claiming she was the primary mentor. The day of the regional fair arrived. Leo was nervous, but I told him to just be proud of what he built. The gym was bigger, the judges more imposing. Sarah was there, hovering, giving last-minute advice to Leo in a voice that was loud enough for the judges to hear. When it was time for the judges to question Leo, one of them, a retired gentleman with kind eyes, asked Leo about his inspiration. Leo, bless him, said, "My grandpa told me stories about space." Then the judge looked at me and said, "Sir, I understand you have a unique perspective. Would you care to share it?" Sarah tried to interject, saying, "Oh, Harry just has some old tales." But the judge gently held up a hand. I stepped forward. I did not raise my voice. I simply said, "Leo's project reminds me of the work I was selected to do for NASA in 1969. I was offered an internship focusing on lunar module propulsion. I turned it down for my family, but the principles Leo used here, the simple chemical reactions, they are the foundation of much greater things." The silence was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. Then the judge smiled and said, "I reviewed the documentation. It is an honor to meet you." Sarah's face went pale. She realized that her entire narrative, her claim of being the sole authority, had just crumbled. The judges awarded Leo a special commendation for historical accuracy and innovation. Later, the school principal, who was present, asked to speak with Sarah. It turned out her tenure application was under review for misrepresentation. She had taken full credit for Leo's work in her paperwork, and my revelation exposed that. She did not get the promotion she was seeking. The best part was seeing Leo's face, beaming with pride, not for winning, but for understanding that his grandpa's stories had real weight. It was a bittersweet victory. I wish it had not come to that, but sometimes you have to stand up for the truth to protect the ones you love. Family is about lifting each other up, not tearing each other down. Always remember that your wisdom and your past are your greatest strengths. Hold on to your dignity and never let anyone make you feel small. Thank you for listening. And next time, I will tell you about the time my own brother tried to quietly sell the family business right out from under me, and how a forgotten partnership agreement changed everything.